You know, I don't sleep much. It's like I consider what I do my joy, my hobby, my life, you know? And I think that makes it, we're not workaholics. We have to work hard at life.
Right.
This is what we do.
It shapes us, you know, our beginnings and how we start. How did you begin, and did you always feel a draw towards being a filmmaker or just an artist in general?
I always liked film since I was a kid. I started at 8. That's when I first took my first Super 8 reel to the pharmacy. Back then you took them to the pharmacy.
That's right.
They came back a week later, you know? And I opened it, I put it on a projector, and to this day, I'm 49, and the most thrilled I've ever been about making movies is that first time. When I turned on the projector and you went, I did that.
It recorded, and now it's playing back.
It was a movie, but I had made it. It never got any more absolutely magical than that.
Pure.
Pure. I thought I could do beautiful stories that were almost like fairy tales with horror, you know?
Right.
Like rather than me molding myself to the world, I thought if I can will the world to understand what I want to do, and you're like a donkey, you're like a stubborn working animal, and you keep going and going and going until one day you realize it's happening.
I found it very frustrating that you were being questioned by a studio so much when you went and did Mimic.
Only bad experience I've ever had making a movie.
But even that,
which is funny.
I want to mention that only because from that comes great things, and I think this is very inspiring to artists who feel like they're blocked or can't work in a system. I want to hear a little bit about that story because it would inspire them to break through.
Mimic, I felt the need to defend it from a creative point of view. I became really feisty and learned to fight for what I believed in. I learned to identify when someone was trying to interfere creatively really early. And it was at the same time my daughter was born. And what I felt is, how can I raise my daughter if I don't have the guts to fight this process and win it?
Right.
Win it somehow. I knew in the middle of Mimic, I was watching my dailies. It's one of my movies that I love the way it looks. And I thought, at least I'm winning a lot of the content. From that moment on, I tried to put as much storytelling in the design and the colors and the cinematography and the way we light it and the way we, as in the script.
So it gets in somewhere.
Because that
Constantly being told.
50% they don't watch. And that 50% you can go by. And I think it changed me for the better because I came from a very protected environment. Mm-hmm. And an environment where, you know, you make movies with your friends. Mm-hmm. And therefore you have complete trust. One of the hardest words for me to say back then was no.
Right.
And that word I learned on Mimic. I always say jokingly, my first movie was Devil's Backbone, but I really mean it. It was the first time I could be me, and I had enough money to support my vision.
So how did that come about? You couldn't get a movie launched in the States after Mimic, and then it was back to basics. You went back and did it in Spanish.
What happened is, Pedro Almodovar was in Miami, and he said to me right away, and I still do the same as a producer. I approached the director and I say, I want to produce your movie, period. Because that's what Pedro did in Miami. Right. He said, I want to produce your movie, and I went, God.
It empowered you.
It empowered you.
Instantly.
And then he came to Guadalajara to eat at my house while my father was kidnapped. Between Mimic and the kidnapping, which was a tough year.
Yeah.
And I pitched him the idea. It's a ghost story with a bomb and the Civil War, and he was eating his food at my house, and he says, it sounds really strange. He says, it sounds like actually like two movies. Are you sure you're gonna be able to combine it? I said, look, Some people will never believe that they are compatible, but I have faith I can make them.
Why Ron Perlman? It kind of reminds me of when I tried to convince people Mickey Rourke was Marv. I mean, they didn't understand it, but because when you work with an actor, I'd worked with him already on Once Upon a Time in Mexico, so I knew he was that guy. Nobody else would have that experience that I had.
And they are similar characters in a way.
Yeah, very similar.
Marv and Hellboy, you know,
yeah.
with the trench coat and the tough.
You need a particular actor for that, but you knew Ron from Kronos.
Yeah.
But it's also one of the greatest actor-director relationships, like Chow Yun-fat and John Woo, Scorsese and De Niro. He's like your Danny Trejo. What is it about the importance of those kind of relationships? I never really thought of it myself. I was wondering what your perspective is. When an actor and a director kind of do a series of films together, as great as Ron is, he's always even better in your movies, just like De Niro's always better in Scorsese movies. Well, what is it about that relationship? Why do you go back to him?
Well, you have actors, or like, it's important that you feel is the right project with your collaborator, be it an actor or a cinematographer. You shouldn't do everything with the same guy all the time. Like, for me to try to force Ron into Pan's Labyrinth would be wrong.
Right.
But I naturally gravitate to Ron because Ron is basically what I want to be when I grow up. You know, like, if I could grow up to be Ron Perlman, I would love that. It's like what they say about Hitchcock. Cary Grant is what Hitchcock wanted to be.
Right.
Absolutely true. I think that with Ron, I admired him enormously before Kronos. I was a huge fan of Name of the Rose, Quest for Fire, Beauty and the Beast. And so I wrote for him, and I wrote Hellboy for him. Before writing Hellboy, I took him to the comic book store and I said, I'm going to write this for you. And you have no idea how many times I got really big producers and really big studios say to me, we'll give you the money.
Get somebody else.
Without Ron Perlman. Yeah, get somebody else. And I would say, what I learned on Mimic. I would say no.
Yeah.
I would say it's not my movie. And Ron was very moved. He said that very big loyalty, blah, blah. And I said, look, it's loyalty to the project.
Yeah.
If you
You're the
were
right
not
guy
right
for the project.
it,
Yeah, I'm not. This isn't for you. You are Hellboy.
He is.
And it's like that.
I mean, I'm a glutton in life and in film, so I give up. I only give up things when they take them out of my cold hands. You know. So if you think about my movies, I can do something intimate like Devil's Wagon, or something big like Pacific Rim, something funny like Hellboy, or something really tragic like Pan's Labyrinth. Seemingly they wouldn't have anything to do with each other, and yet if you look for me, I'm there. You demand of yourself to articulate who you are. People think that the director is just an exercise in a void where you exercise pure control. And the reality is that directing is the negotiation between what is there and what you want. Be it daylight, be it an actor that is not responding, an effect that is not working, or a studio that doesn't like the dailies. You cannot lock yourself and say, it's either my way or I don't do it. You have to make your way pliable. You have to be, like Bruce Lee would say, like water. You have to feel the water. Self-reflection is extremely important as a storyteller. There are no bad experiences, and rarely do you have a wrong choice. But if you don't reflect about your own life and your own career, you can blindly find yourself cornered in a place that may have been easy or hard, but you didn't learn how you got there. You have to question yourself. You don't have to feel that comfortable in your own skin. You have to always feel on the verge of catastrophe. And if that happens, then you know you're really growing. Self-reflection is extremely important as a storyteller. There are no bad experiences, and rarely do you have a wrong choice. But if you don't reflect about your own life and your own career, you can blindly find yourself cornered in a place that may have been easy or hard, but you didn't learn how you got there. You have to question yourself. You don't have to feel that comfortable in your own skin. You have to always feel on the verge of catastrophe. And if that happens, then you know you're really growing.